This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me, Xander's going to give us this week's topics.
Has Killian Hayes turned a corner? Can we finally agree on a mock draft for the Lions? We'll see. It's a Fan Report.
There's, the Pistons have obviously kind of transitioned into a time period of their season where it looks like they are attempting to actively tank, but if they are, they're not doing it very well. And it's not like
they're doing what they can do.
It's not through any faults of their own.
Sake.
Like the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, when they sat basically all three of their big time players, and Cade, Sadiq, and Bay, or Cade, Sadiq, and Stewart. The Thunder just put out a roster that was probably a borderline B team on a high school in a high school team.
Yeah, like it was really a G League team.
Right. It was just like I can't even really fault them for winning that game. The game against the Sixers, they probably should have lost that one. Their last game, they probably should have lost. Like, okay, let me put it this way, Andrew. Are the Pistons winning these games? Is that frustrating you?
Last year it would have been. This year, I'm of the yes, obviously you want to get as good a pick as possible. But I'm of the belief that, teams tank to get what we got last year. Like we already accomplished the tank. Like that's been accomplished. Now, in a lot of years, if there's a consensus number one that I am completely 100% sold on, I'd be like, we got to do whatever we can do to get the number one pick. But I am not entirely sold on a lot of the guys in the top. I really like Chet Holmgren. Paolo Banchero is starting to grow on me with his turn. Has started to grow on me a little bit more with his tournament play.
Fun fact: the mocks that have been dropped within the last couple days have all had Paolo Banchero as the number one overall pick.
Interesting, but with that comes the fact that if we land like 5 or 6, there's still guys I think would be a beautiful fit on this basketball team, mainly Benedict Mathurin. And if we didn't have an option like that would likely be sitting there at that spot, I'd be a little more anxious. But because I know that if Benedict Mathurin goes in the top 5, then then Jaden Ivey probably falls. I'm okay.
So let me give you a little spin on this here, because yes, I've enjoyed watching the Pistons win some of these games, especially against the Sixers game in particular. But it also has gotten me a little bit concerned for the future. It is frustrating to an extent. And by that I mean, yes, I like Benedict Mathurin, but I don't think he's the player that can push this team to contending.
No, I just think he's a beautiful fit. That's all.
Right. I think it's honestly probably pretty crucial we land inside the top 4 in the draft, because that's where you'll find the guys that you could probably say have the talent and ability to push this team into a contending situation once they hit their stride. I don't know that Benedict Mathurin has that. He's a good player. I think he'd be a really good player. However, I don't think he's got the ability, and this is purely speculation based on what I've seen him do in college, which is really no true bearing, but I don't know that he has the ceiling to be a true number 2 guy on a really good contending team. He'd be a number 3. I think Bay is kind of that similar role, where he's not quite good enough to be a number 2 guy on a really good team. He's a number 3 or 4.
Yeah, but what Mathurin doesn't provide, what Mathurin provides that Bay and the Bay doesn't, and kind of really not many people on this team do, is, aside from the scoring, is the athleticism to go with it.
And you're not wrong.
I'm not saying that makes him that means I like him more than any of the guys who actually go in the top 4. I don't. I've said he's my favorite player outside of the top 4.
Right, and you're not wrong. But again, is he good enough to put this team into contention? And that's where I sit here, and if I had to take a side right here, right now, I'd say no. He's good, and I would love to have him on my team.
I mean, let's think of this way. How big of an upgrade is he over Corey Joseph?
He's huge, but at the same time, that's not what's
So
that's not the only thing. That's not enough. That's not enough to put this team into contention. They need more. If they get Benedict Mathurin, they have to add more to be a contending team. And a truly good contending team. I'm not talking a 6 seed or a 7 seed or a play-in or a 5 seed. I'm talking in the top 4 in the East, which is extremely stacked and will be for years to come. To compete with the big boys in this conference, you need more than what Benedict Mathurin can give you. At least in my mind, right here, right now. That can obviously change. He could turn into Donovan Mitchell and be a superstar. I have no idea. Nobody truly does. But from what I've seen from the top 4 guys, they are a true full step ahead of, in terms of their ceiling, what Benedict Mathurin can give you. Jaden Ivey has the makeup of an absolute superstar in the league. Chet Holmgren has the makeup of a guy that we have never even seen before in this league, and the closest comparisons would be guys like, I don't know, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, like who knows? We haven't seen guys like Chet Holmgren before because they haven't existed. Now, that means the floor for a guy like him is stupid low, and if he misses, then we're dead. But Paolo Banchero, again, another situation where his ceiling is stupid high. And Jabari Smith is probably the best outside shooting big man we've ever seen in NBA draft history. Like the ceiling that the guys in the top 4 provide fill that key role of the number 2 option on this team, or even on some nights the number 1. And I don't think Benedict Mathurin can fill that. And that's what this team truly needs to take that step. Yes, Benedict Mathurin is a huge upgrade over Corey Joseph, but it doesn't put them in that, like, if Benedict Mathurin reaches his expectation, does that put them in a position where they are competing with the top 4 in the East? And I'm going to sit here and say, I don't think so. But if Jaden Ivey reaches his expectation, they are. You know what I mean? Like that's why it's a little bit frustrating for this
I get what you're saying. Like
to put them outside that.
Like naturally, the ceiling of the top 4, they have a higher ceiling. All I'm saying is the reason I'm not fretting is you get, I feel like, what would be still an essential piece, and it's too good of a fit to ignore if the top 4 are gone. That's right. All I'm saying. Like the
but
fit
if all it equates to is a 5 seed at best, did we actually end up doing anything good?
Well, I don't think any one of these guys is going to get you a top 3 seed next year. Like,
I'm not saying next year. I'm saying when they reach their ceiling. Because I don't know that Benedict Mathurin is a guy that can put you inside the top 4. I do think Jaden Ivey is. I do think Chet Holmgren is. I do think Jabari Smith or Paolo Banchero is. Benedict Mathurin's a damn good player, but he's a role player. And a good one. He can't. He's not the type of guy that can. He's not the Jaylen Brown to Jason Tatum. He's not the Klay Thompson to the Steph Curry. Like that's the type of guy we need on this team.
We hope he can be the Jaylen Brown to Jason Tatum.
But that's not what he's expected to be. He's looked at to be a really good role player. He's not looked at to be a superstar. But then again, neither were guys like Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker. But they got, those teams, you could argue, got lucky that those guys went to them because, frankly, the Pistons should have taken.
So then I have a question for you. So, like, outside the top 4, there is one pick that is a swing for the fences pick where you could very well possibly be getting the best player in the draft, or it's a guy that will completely go bust, and that's Shaedon Sharpe. And the reason it's such a big risk, obviously, as you know, is he hasn't played a minute of college basketball.
Say that dude, he concerns the hell out of me because, does the dude still know how to dribble?
The reason I ask is, if we're shooting for ceiling, is there an argument to be made to take Shaedon Sharpe over Ben Math? I'm very intrigued by Shaedon Sharpe. He probably, after Ben Math, he might be the guy I go with. But is there a case to be made for Pistons fans to want him more?
Yes, I absolutely think there is. I think the ceiling that there is enough of a reason to make you wonder and make you want to have the Pistons consider it. Does that mean I rank Shaedon Sharpe over Ben Math? No, I don't. Like, I still think Benedict Mathurin is a guy who I would value more outside the top 5 in this draft because of what he brings on the floor. Like, I'm not saying that if we get Benedict Mathurin, all hope is lost. I just think that we will have to continue to add pieces or hope Benedict Mathurin reaches levels we don't expect him to. And not saying that, if we get Jaden Ivey, we're done, because we're not. We still have holes in this team. There's no question about it. But we won't have to swing as hard to fill those holes as we would if we didn't get one of the top 4 guys, and that's just kind of how basketball works. That's how building a roster works. If you don't get the top echelon in this area, you got to find it somewhere else. So if we have the Pistons have an opportunity in back-to-back drafts, grab guys that would kind of fill the core of your roster, the foundational core of your roster. And if we miss out on that opportunity because we decided to win some games in April, what was the point? You know what I mean? Like, again, I think there is value in winning games when you don't need to. I do.
But like the reason I can't get upset though is because like it's not like we're trotting out our starting 5 in these games. We're not. Like,
well, I mean, in some of these games, in the Sixers game, they did.
Yeah,
they absolutely did.
For example, last game against the Pacers, K didn't play, Sadiq didn't play, Jeremy obviously didn't play.
No, that was another one where I just look at it and go, well, what the hell's going on?
Well, Pacers just suck.
Pacers suck, and they also, I think they're a team that is actively trying to tank.
And then
I think
the Thunder
these teams all have the same mindset of, hey, let's try to get a better draft pick. Some of these teams are just doing it better than we are.
And the Thunder, we actually did trot out our starting lineup, and then when we saw the Thunder were trotting out, we pulled Sadiq and Cade in the first quarter, never put him back in the game.
As they should. As they absolutely should.
But yeah, the Thunder saw tanked us because they had the audacity
they
to
quite literally
to sip
trotted out a
Poku. I
mean, they trotted out
they even sat Poku.
I know. That roster that the Thunder put out on the floor in that game was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was an abomination to NBA basketball. Mm-hmm. But you know what? They're tanking better than we are.
Well, they turned around and beat the Suns the next game.
I guess they did. I guess my question to you, Andrew, is do the Pistons still need to be tanking, or is it okay for us to win games now? Are we at the point where we can get a guy like Benedict Mathurin and be happy to move on? Or we can get a guy like Shaedon Sharpe and be happy to move on? And be comfortable missing out on guys like Jaden Ivey, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, and Paulo Banchero. Is it okay if that happens?
Let's face it, we're a bottom 5 team in the league. There's never a point where you're like, no, I think I'm okay without the top 4 players in this draft. Like you're not at that point. The only argument I'm making is you already did it and you did it right and you got the number 1 prize out of it. Like I don't think the NBA is going to reward us the number 1 pick twice in a row.
No, I don't either. And frankly, I don't even need the number 1 pick. I just need to land inside the top 4. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm asking. Like that's all I need for this team to do.
And right now, the best you're probably going to get is the number 3, and even there you can fall back as far as 7. So
at 3, I think you can fall to 7, that would be absolutely awful because you'd probably end up with like Keegan Murray, who, of all the prospects at the top of this draft, he probably excites me the least.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have one quick question for you.
Yeah.
Of the top 4, who do you think is most likely to actually slip out of that top 4?
That's a good question. I think there's one guy who I think should be the one that would slip, and it's Chet Holmgren because of the way he played in the tournament. He wasn't good in the tournament. Versus other guys like Jaden Ivey, Paulo Banchero was amazing in the tournament. Jabari Smith played terrible in the tournament, but it was all based on his shooting, not just because and he knows how to shoot. Mm-hmm. But Chet Holmgren was just routinely outplayed in the tournament when he played a real basketball team. I know he had one good game, but it wasn't a real basketball team. So that's a guy who probably you could argue should slip. I don't know that he will because of the ceiling. Mm-hmm. If I had to put my money on one guy to slip, it'd probably be Jaden Ivey.
That's where I'm at for a couple reasons.
One, because of the presence of Benedict Mathurin and Shaedon Sharpe also, and 2, because he's probably the one guy who I think has gotten the least amount of hype around the draft. Like Jabari Smith gets a ton because, again, he's probably the best outside shooting big man we've seen in the NBA draft. Chet Holmgren because of the ceiling, and Paulo Banchero because of the way he played in the tournament. Like, I think Jaden Ivey's the one. Even though Ivey, no disrespect to him at all, he had a hell of a tournament until the final game.
Yep.
So it's not like he would have played himself out of the top 4. It's just he's probably gotten the least amount of hype surrounding him.
I'm right there, locks up with you for a few reasons. I mean, one, I do feel like Ivey's I do feel like Ivey's being scrutinized quite a bit recently. Like I can really see teams overthinking it. Like, is he a 1? Is he a 2? If he's a 2, is he tall enough to play the 2 in the NBA?
I have a really good comparison for how I think people are looking at Jaden Ivey, and I'm going to compare him to a guy that the way people are looking at an NFL prospect, and it's Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, Kayvon Thibodeau is still probably, in terms of what his makeup is, one of the elite tier pass rushers in this draft. But for a multitude of reasons, he's been knocked down. Jaden Ivey, same deal.
But the other reason, though, that I do think Jaden Ivey could slip is just looking at the teams that are projected to be in the top 4. Orlando, they have Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. I don't see him drafting another guard. Houston is super guard heavy. I don't see them drafting another guard.
Right.
OKC, between Shai Gilgeous, Josh Giddey, Trey Mann, I don't see them drafting another guard. Portland has Anthony Simons, Dame Lillard. Maybe they draft Jaden Ivey as like the Dame Lillard era.
I would pay attention to Portland because that's a team who one is
Indiana,
willing to trade
I think,
their
is the
pick.
most likely.
They're one willing to trade their pick, and 2 they're willing to trade Dame. So I would look out for Portland as a potential Jaden Ivey suitor.
I don't know because I really feel like this whole Jeremy Grant thing is to appease Dame.
I do
really
too. But I think if they're not able to get a deal done for someone that Dame likes, then Dame probably asked out of town.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of smoke around a Dame trade for the last, 2 years now? And if there's smoke for this long, there's a fire.
Yeah.
So if they don't bring in a name, he's gone. So, and the Pacers, yes, I would agree. They're probably a team that would likely take Jaden.
Even though they just got Tyrese Halliburton, they just drafted Duarte last year.
I think they would still look at a guy like Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
I think the talent is just too high.
Yeah. No, I agree. And plus hometown. But
Yep.
Speaking of Jeremy Grant, though, we did find out what the reported deal that was offered by Portland.
Before you move into that, though.
Yeah, what's up?
I wanted to kind of button up that conversation with asking you this. If the Pistons do land inside the top 4 and get one of those guys, are they done tanking?
Yeah, they got to be. Unless the guy goes complete bust somehow. They got to be.
And I agree with you. I think at that point, you have your foundation with the trio of Sadiq, Cade, and whoever you would get in the top 4. There's
like everyone in the top 4 is a fit.
There's your core trio. Right. And there's your core trio right there. And then you add Stewart to that. You add probably Marvin Bagley, probably Hamidou Diallo, probably Killian Hayes, because the way he's played has looked nice. And then some free agent signings because you got a lot of money coming off the books. I think you'd be done. And I think you'd be at a point where now it's time to get these pieces working well together, getting the young guys comfortable with playing in the league and having them reach their potential and competing in the East. Now, if they land outside the top 4, are they done tanking?
It's going to depend on what they do in the offseason, and it's also going to depend on who they draft and how well it pans out. I mean, I wouldn't be like
say you get Mathurin, say you get Ben Math. Are they done tanking? I'd probably say no.
I would still lean yes. The only reason because it feels like we're already struggling to tank. You add another good player on this roster. I
don't think you're winning very many games just adding a guy like Benedict Mathurin. I don't.
Yeah, but when I think tanking, I'm thinking gunning for bottom 5 of the league. I don't know if you're bottom 5 of the league anymore.
You might be, because this team looks pretty terrible most nights. Lately, they've looked a lot better. Yes.
Yeah.
At least since the All-Star break, this team has looked a lot better. Yes, they've had some games where they, this team sucks, and we know it. But, since the All-Star break, they've been in basketball games. I don't know. I think the question mark is still there if you land outside that top 5 and get a guy like Mathurin or Shaedon Sharpe. I do think it's still there of, okay, do we need to tank one more year? Versus if you get a guy like Ivy or you get a guy like Holmgren or you get a guy like Smith, I don't think that question mark is there anymore. I think it's time to just go. And that's why I say,
hey, you don't have a choice at that point.
Well, right.
If you're in the top 4, if you're tanking, it's kind of pathetic.
I do still think they can lose games to get a good draft pick. I just don't think they would need to anymore. Whereas a guy like Mathurin, if they ended up still with a high lottery pick, that's what I would want them to do. Versus, I can't say want, it's what I would expect the team to do. To still gun, not necessarily saying tanking for a top 5 pick, but tanking for like 7, 8, 9, or 10. Mm-hmm. Not trying to actively be a borderline lottery team anymore. Being a team that can still pick inside the top 10 to add to this roster. Versus if you get a guy like Ivy or get a guy like Smith, if they were in that position, you failed. Or it's not working. And something needs to be fixed. So I think the importance of them landing inside that top 4 is pretty high. I do. Because of that reason. Because I'm ready to start seeing some winning basketball and seeing this team win games.
Are you really ready to say that we're still going to need a tank if we're not in the top 4? Like, are you that's basically saying that you're out on the top 4, on the prospects outside of top 4? Yeah,
I do still think this team will need a high lottery pick to be a good, unless they somehow manage to grab like Anthony Simons.
Tall order at this point.
Exactly. Unless you manage to add a guy who can legitimately be another high level option outside of Cade Cunningham and Bay and Mathurin, sure. Then I'd say no. But I do still think you would need to add a really good piece to this team. I'm not saying you need a top 3 pick, but you probably need somebody inside the top 7 or 8. Versus if you do land inside the top 4 this year and grab Ivy, you don't really need to do that. I'm just trying to build the key foundation to this team because I look at Mathurin as a guy who's just outside that core foundation of those top 2 people, of those top 2 players on your roster. Because I think we've got one. We're missing one other one. We've got the pieces that are helping to support those guys, but we're still missing that one guy.
And you're saying, so you're thinking Mathurin is just going to be another really good support piece, but not
a la Sadiq Bey, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I look at Mathurin to be. And I don't think that's enough to win a championship or win in this conference the way it is. You got to remember, not a single team in the Eastern Conference right now that is a 10 or higher seed is below 500. When's the last time we saw the East that good?
Oh, yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But
so you have to be really good to compete in this conference.
One of the things we can do to compete is take advantage of the trade market, but looks like we punted on that on the trade deadline. Nick, you tell me if this is for good reason. So Blazers came knocking, like we figured, and Pistons rebuffed. They threw some pitches. The Pistons rebuffed those pitches. Apparently, the Blazers were offering Josh Hart and draft compensation, which is undisclosed, according to Mark Stein.
For Jeremy Grant?
Yeah, is that enough to move the needle?
No. Josh Hart doesn't really look like a very good basketball player to me anymore. Like, yeah, he's okay, but like, no, that doesn't move the needle at all.
I really want to know what the draft compensation was.
I would imagine it would have to be you're attaching a first round pick to that, or if you tell me anything less than a first round pick, you can just get out.
One would hope.
Get out. Just get out.
Hope. Because this is obviously this is before what Josh Hart did in the month of March,
right?
Specifically, the last 5 games that he played in. But yeah, you were getting Josh Hart that was. Oh, look, he had a few good games. He's gone off a few good performances. Let's see if we can leverage that into some trade value. Yeah, no. I mean, I would really hope you're getting that Pelicans pick, but not knowing where that would convey since you're that early, since you're still back in mid-February.
Damn, Josh Hart really has played well in the last 5. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. He's killed it. Like, until he got hurt. But
how much of that is out of, like, Portland just trotting out a B team roster, though?
I mean, it could be. But yeah, like that one doesn't move the needle for me. Like
no.
It better be the Pelicans first for me to even listen, and even then, I'd be like, because you don't know where that's gonna.
Let me ask you this:
that's gonna fall.
What do you want more in a trade for Jeremy Grant? Do you want a first round pick, or do you want a really good player, a really good young player. Because frankly, I lean the player.
If it's a good young player, yeah, sure.
Like, would you rather have a Blazers first round pick, their pick, or would you rather have Anthony Simons?
Anthony Simons.
Same.
It's a no-brainer. But if you're asking if I'd rather have the Pelicans pick or Josh Hart, the Pelicans pick.
Yeah, well, Josh Hart I don't consider to be a really good young player. Like, he's not even that young anymore, is he?
No, he will be. He's 27. He actually just turned 27, I think.
Yeah, he's not even that young. Like,
I want to.
yeah, he's 27.
Want me to give you a trade that may or may not get you titillated? I don't know.
I do like trades that titillate me.
This one has divided Pistons Reddit.
Okay, I like going to the Reddit sphere for off the wall stuff to talk about. It's fun.
This is by no means an actual trade rumor. It's just a pure hypothetical. But hypothetically, this is another Pistons Trailblazers trade. Would you give up? Let's say the lottery gods bless you, the top 3 pick this year. Would you give up that pick plus Jeremy Grant for Anthony Simons, Portland's first round pick landing at 6, and the Pelicans' first round pick landing at 11?
And this is for the number 1 overall pick?
It's a top 3.
Oh, top 3. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Where? Undisclosed.
So we get 6, 11, and Simons for Grant, and let's call it 2.
Top 3. Yeah, sure. We'll call it 2.
Yeah, I'd do it. And your guys are gonna say like, oh, why? When you just said that,
I would do it.
Oh,
I would totally do it.
If you want to say, why would you do that when you just said we need one of these core foundational pieces? Well, one, I think Simons can be that. 2, we're adding Simons to 6 and 11, so probably Benedict Mathurin and insert other name here, probably a big name.
Jalen Duren, maybe?
Jalen Duren, oh my God, that would be so nice. Or who's the center from Kansas?
And you know what
Jalen
else
Smith.
you could do? I could probably package 6 and 11 and see what teams want to let me back in the top 5.
Give me in the top 5, yes. Give me inside the top 4. I move back from 2 to 4, and I get Anthony Simons. Yes.
I think this is. I'm pretty strongly in the yes category on this one. Yeah. This is where Pistons Reddit has fallen. 251 for yes, 422 for no.
What? There's that many delusional Piston fans out there? What is it? Because we're giving up Jeremy Grant?
I doubt it.
He's not going to be that good for this team.
My guess is a lot of people voting no don't actually
give up a top 2 pick,
or don't actually realize how good Anthony Simons is.
That too. Like, this dude has been, again, when I talk about I want a core 2 piece to go alongside Cade.
And he's only 22. He'll be 23 going into next
Simons
year. But
can be one of those 2 guys. I have higher belief that Anthony Simons can be one of those core 2 guys than I do Benedict Mathurin can be one of those core 2 guys. Just saying.
Because Anthony Simons has already shown a pretty significant stretch in the league that he can be a core guy. Yeah, in 2022, before the Blazers finally sat him, 23 points per game, nearly 6 assists per game, on 45.6% shooting from the field, 42.3 from 3.
Was the last game he played March 5th?
Yeah.
He put up 38 points in that game.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would do a lot to get Anthony Simons on this basketball team. Like, I'd be pretty damn happy. And you tell me that, like, I don't even necessarily know that I would trade the 6 and 11 because I would at that point believe I have my core 2, and then I go and just fill the rest of my roster. I'd grab Jalen Duren, I'd grab Benedict Mathurin or Keegan Murray if you really wanted to go that route. Like,
well, like imagine if like, let's say Chet Holmgren fell somehow slid to 4, and you're able to swoop in
package
there.
6 and 11 to go get Chet Holmgren. Yes,
the amount of different offensive looks you could throw out at opponents.
Your offense would be lethal.
Yeah,
Cade, Simons, Sadiq, Holmgren. Yes, please.
Or if even if you got Jabari Smith, I mean that you're now starting to flirt with 5-out no-win territory.
Which, not my favorite setup, because I think there is one team that has ever successfully done that, and it's the Golden State Warriors, and they have the 2 greatest shooters in the history of the game, arguably. One is not even arguable. You don't have that here.
No. You're easily doing 4 out, 1 in. I mean,
yes, you have to at that point. What I would do. Here's what I do.
Well, yeah, I'm not posting up Jabari Smith.
No, what I would do is I would run 4 out, 1 in with Stu down low.
Yeah,
I'd run Stewart and Smith together. I'd just put Smith at the 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I'd run it.
Yeah. And that would be the perfect system for Jabari Smith too.
And Isaiah Stewart can run pick and roll all day.
I like this.
And could you imagine the confusion and the switches on the defense where Cade draws a big man and decides either take him ISO or he draws a double, kicks it out to Jabari Smith or Anfernee Simons for a 3? Yes, please.
Speaking of Cade, this is completely off topic, but I was listening to the Bunny Cardigan podcast the other day, and James Edwards said he was talking about the whole voting thing for Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year and all that. He said that he knows someone who is voting on Rookie of the Year. That is his top 3 that he's voting on is Evan Mobley, Scottie Barnes, and Franz Wagner.
Get out of here.
I'm like, that's just disrespectful.
Just remove his vote from him. He doesn't deserve it. If you're just at that point, it's just a troll, and if you're just going to troll, you don't deserve to vote.
At that point, you're just ignoring basic basketball
logic. Just ignoring logic. That's what it is. Just get out. Go away. You don't deserve to vote. There is zero question in my mind Cade should be the Rookie of the Year right now.
Yeah.
He has done enough. What more do you want him to do at this point? And I know he had a really bad first, 4 weeks of basketball, if you want to even call it that much. In all reality, it was a really bad first 2 weeks.
The laziest argument right now for the anti-Cade crew is it's Rookie of the Year, not Rookie of the last 2 months. And I go, he's been good for more than the last 2 months.
Yeah, go back. Sure, were his shooting numbers not the greatest to start? No, they weren't. He was shooting about 40%. But he's brought that number up. Mm-hmm. And he was still effective shooting at that level. He is the only reason that, for the most part, the Pistons won any games earlier this year.
Mm-hmm. And also, I get annoyed. Yes, and I agree. We do need the efficiency numbers for Cade to go up a bit, but 100%. Trying to compare Cade's efficiency to Evan Mobley's efficiency, it's apples and oranges. I mean,
one guy shoots 5 feet from the basket, one guy shoots 30 feet from the basket. What are we talking about here?
And I could just turn around and compare Cade's assist to Evan Mobley's assist. Naturally, right. Cade's going to get more assists.
Right. What is the argument there? That's just stupid. To try to compare, Evan Mobley shoots 55% from the floor. Well, guess what? That's actually below average for a guy who shoots at where he does. So what's your argument now? He's a below average shooter for his position. Congratulations. Cade, not so much.
And I generally don't know how you can put Franz Wagner above Cade. No slight to Franz Wagner,
you want
but
to talk
really
about a guy who only scores. That's Franz Wagner. He provides you nothing else. Scottie Barnes had a good year. He's had the luxury of playing alongside 2 All-Stars.
Yeah.
Opens things up quite a bit.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't ever see a double team in his life.
You're getting at worse the other team's
Mobley,
third best defender.
He's been terrible with Jared Allen gone. Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's dipped.
Yeah. So how can you even make the argument for Evan Mobley when you see how much value one guy alongside him brings to his game? What does Cade have to add to his value? He didn't have Jeremy Grant for half the year. Sadiq Bey was quite literally non-existent for half the year. So what's your argument?
I love the rookie ladders argument, the Kia rookie ladder.
Dumbest thing I've ever seen.
They have Evan Mobley number 1 still, and this is I think by the time this comes out, the new ladder will come out. But they had Evan Mobley number 1 with, since last ladder, 8.7 points per game, 7.3 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game since last ladder.
Terrible.
Cade still at 2 with 19 points per game, 8 assists per game, and 4.3 boards per game. And they acknowledge in the write-up for Evan Mobley how much of a challenge it's been for how bad he's been playing without Jared Allen. all they say is his impact defensively relative to other rookies is what has kept the Clevelander at the top.
Except Cleveland as a team, and especially down low, has been terrible since Allen went down, including Evan Mobley. He's been bad defensively. So what impact are we talking about here? Because there isn't any.
We're talking about we have to grasp at straws so that we can get something.
Yes. Evan Mobley has not been good since Jared Allen has been gone on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
Either side of the ball. And yes, I know it's Rookie of the Year award. Well, guess what? Cave's been good on both sides of the ball the whole year. Outside of 2 weeks, sorry.
And we both said we're not going to fault them for... We're not going to count him being hurt the last few games against him. Just like we're not going to count Cade having COVID and being hurt in the end of the season against him.
I will knock a guy for damn near disappearing because his running mate goes down. I won't count that against you. Sorry. Because that just goes to show that, well, really, you're not that good. I will say I have seen a lot of people on Twitter just kind of slander the man and say that he's a fraud. Like, I won't go that far. He's a good basketball player, but, like, he seriously relies on Jared Allen to be there for him to succeed.
I think any team would still jump at the opportunity to have Evan Mobley. But we are talking what's shaping up to be a pretty historically good rookie class. So, like,
I would say so. I mean, this is probably the best rookie class we've seen since 2003.
Yeah. And thank God the Pistons are at the top of it.
I still firmly believe Pistons got the best player in that draft. Firmly believe.
All right, let's quickly talk Kill because we have been taking our sweet time with all this.
Yep, let's do it.
So
we've got a mock draft to get to.
Killian Hayes, over the last 8 or so games, he has upped the intensity level. He's upped the assertiveness, the aggression, and I don't know if you remember. Earlier on the season, I said, I just want to see one game where he takes like 15 shots.
And he did.
Well, he took 25 against the Oklahoma City Thunder on April 1st. He had a great game that game, 26 points, 8 assists, 7 boards. He was highly aggressive defensively. He was highly impactful. Now, yes, it was based against a G League team.
Yes.
Point for us saying we should have Killian the G League for a few games to get his confidence up because that's what would have happened on a nightly basis is what that tells me. But just in general, I'm coming to you with this argument not based off that game. I think even outside of that OKC game, it feels to me that Killian is turning a corner just based on the intensity level he's bringing to the game, how he's actually more willing to take contact at the rim. He's no longer shying away. We still need him to square up his hips on this damn jumper, but that's beside the point. But in general, actually, I think his 3-point shooting over the last 8 games has actually improved over his season-long numbers.
I can get you the total number here. Give me just a second. But continue.
But in general, it's not so much the OKC game. It's not even so much just the numbers in general. To me, it's visually seeing what he provides when he's on the floor. It's something for me to take into the offseason with some confidence that he can build on it and build it into something highly useful for an NBA career. Like he's starting to I remember we had talked about at some point in the season, we had talked about how maybe his ceiling is like a Marcus Smart type. We talked about like a Rajon Rondo type. Like he's been looking more and more like Marcus Smart these past few games to me.
So to give you the number, he's been shooting 32% from 3 over his last 8, which is definitely above his season average. You're not wrong. And one of the things that I've looked at with Killian's game as of late is he seems to be more involved with the offense. So you're not necessarily playing 4-on-5 offensively with Killian on the floor anymore. Like he's just by looking at the shot numbers he's taking. Over the last 8 games, he's taking 11, 9, 8, 9, 10, 8, 25, and 9 shots. No games did he take fewer than 8 shots versus there were games where he would take 2 shots or 3 shots earlier in the year. There's so involved.
I feel the majority of games he's taken somewhere between 3 and 5 shots.
Right. And he hasn't taken anything less than 8 shots in games. And I absolutely think that has a lot to do with Casey saying, hey, don't be afraid to shoot the ball and give yourself some confidence. I think it has a lot to do with him bringing some confidence into his game. And you compare him to Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's shooting numbers in terms of attempts in the last 8 games or so, 6, 9, 15, 26. He's got a couple big games just like Killian did. 9, 3, 9, 9. Very similar to what Killian has been doing. And you look at the other stats out there, the rebounds, the assists, they're comparable. Yes, Killian has largely, been playing on it with a team lately that has tank mentality to it. So this gives guys like Killian more of an opportunity to get some run. And I think that's a really good thing for his confidence and development, because it gives him live game opportunities and live game action to say, hey, I can actually do this. It gives some confidence in his game, and we're starting to see quite a bit of it. And you want to talk about his defense also. His steal numbers have been off the charts. I mean, since those last 8, like we're talking about, 1, 1, 2, 1, 4, 3, 5, and 1. Like, his steal numbers have been off the charts. He's been involved in blocking some shots also. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Killian Hayes is going to be an all-star point guard.
No.
But you know what? At worst, from what I've seen over the last few weeks here, he will be a solid backup point guard. And that's, at this point, what we need out of a guy like him. With the way that this team is starting to take shape, that's what we need. We could use a really solid backup point guard, a guy we can have come in as a 6th man, not be a liability offensively, provide some really solid defense, and
Lindsey Hunter type.
Yeah, exactly. I've honestly, I do too. I've honestly been extremely encouraged with the way Killian Hayes played basketball. And this dude's like, what, 20 years old? 20, 21? He's still a baby.
He is. He looks like a child.
Yes, he does. He quite literally looks like a child out on the floor. I've been extremely encouraged with the way he's played basketball as of late. And I'm not going to even look at the OKC game as anything real, what we can see out of Killian Hayes.
That was what you could have expected putting him in the G League.
Exactly, because that's what he faced, was a G League roster. So he's better than the G Leaguers. We knew this already. I think Killian Hayes can prove himself, and if he goes into the offseason with some confidence, which is exactly what I think this stretch is doing for him, if he goes into the offseason with some confidence, puts up a bunch of shots and revamps a little bit, squares up, you could see a really good player next year.
Yeah.
A key piece on a winning team. I'm excited. This is probably the most excited I've been about Killian Hayes since we drafted him.
What about Carson Edwards getting 30 minutes of that Pacers game?
Carson Edwards, I've been a fan of since his college days. I love the dude. He's a huge, big-time scorer. Honestly, we could use some scoring off the bench in the backcourt.
I was shocked that he played. We signed him that day, and I was like,
I know.
I
saw an interview of somebody did with him where he didn't even go to, he didn't even see his hotel. He didn't even drop his bags off. He literally came from the airport to the team bus to the arena. They didn't give him any plays to study. He was just thrown out there.
Yeah. And he damn near had a double-double.
Right. Yes, he shot 5 of 15, but bad shooting nights happen. He was still effective. What do you have, 13 and 9, 15 and 9?
13 and 9, yeah.
I'll take that.
With only one turnover.
Right. This team could use some scoring off the bench in the backcourt, and he brings that. Now, you can argue, what about Frank Jackson? Well, Frank Jackson's kind of disappeared this year.
Yeah.
And frankly, if you told me that Carson Edwards was able to take that Frank Jackson role, okay. I ain't mad.
I'm willing to take a shot.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk Lions.
Let's do it. So, talk of the town as of late has obviously been the mock drafts. We've seen, obviously we hear about different ones coming out every day. Well, the one that's been talked about the most lately is Todd McShay from SB Nation. His 2-round mock draft has the Lions going probably a way that I don't think we've seen yet. Which is, so it intrigued me a little bit. And I was curious, I'm curious to get your thoughts on it because it is names that we don't hear as often as connected to the Lions. But let's just get right into it here. So Todd McShay has the Jacksonville Jaguars going with what everybody expects and taking Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end for Michigan, at number 1.
Okay.
Lions at number 2, Trayvon Walker, defensive end from Georgia. Houston Texans at number 3, Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end from Oregon. And what are your thoughts on going Trayvon Walker over Kayvon Thibodeau?
First of all, I want to talk about Kayvon Thibodeau because I find Kayvon Thibodeau's just up and down draft projections to be so amusing. Like, he's gone from being the projected number 1 overall pick to being like close to 10 almost. And then now he's back to number 3.
You know what I see it as? I see it as overthinking and prospect fatigue. Because watch the guy play. Watch the guy work out. He is an athletic animal. Mm-hmm. Like, this guy didn't just forget how to play his position. He's still really good. And frankly, just from what... And I'll be honest, I'm guilty of it. Mm-hmm. I started to sour on Kayvon Thibodeau a little bit. Well, I'm kind of bought back into him. Yeah. Lions clearly are. They sent pretty much the whole front office to go watch his pro day. But Andrew, give me some more of your thoughts here.
So, in terms of Trayvon Walker, I don't hate the player. I mean, I love the fit in a 3-4, but I don't see him as having the ceiling of a Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, maybe safer, sure, but I don't think you're in the position to make that type of pick if you're the Lions. You need to swing for the fences, and you need to keep swinging for the fences. And I view Kayvon Thibodeau as a swing for the fences type. I do think Trayvon Walker would be effective, though. Like, I wouldn't be upset at Trayvon Walker like I would if we took, like, a safety like Kyle Hamilton at number 2. But
yeah, I don't love the idea of Kyle Hamilton at 2.
But, like, here's the thing. At the same time, this is the first time, maybe I just have missed it, but this is the first time I've seen Trayvon Walker go this high.
I have seen him a few times mocked to the Lions. I've also seen him a few times mocked inside the top 5. So he's in that realm of, okay, a couple times you'll see him break into the top 5. Most of the time he's somewhere in the realm of like 8 to 12.
Mm-hmm. So, like, the reason I'm saying that is Kayvon Thibodeau is someone that's a threat to go 2, 3, 4. If you're really targeting Trayvon Walker, I feel like you could trade back a few spots to someone who wants Kayvon and who's of the belief that Kayvon's not going to make it past 3, let's say, and get some pretty good draft compensation and still take Trayvon Walker. I'm not a big fan of sitting at 2 and taking Trayvon.
I agree with you. If I'm sitting at
2, I'm swinging for the fences.
I agree with you, and I think my personal pick for the Lions at 2 right here, right now is Kayvon Thibodeau. Mm-hmm. If we trade out of that spot, then you open the door for guys like Trayvon Walker. You open the door for a guy like Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, Jordan Davis from Georgia. Now, the one thing that does make me curious or wonder about the ceiling for a guy like Trayvon Walker is the fact that he did play alongside Jordan Davis. That's going to make you better. And he also really didn't get to the quarterback that much. I think he only had 1 sack last year. Mm-hmm. Trayvon Walker did. So that right there makes me wonder what's his game going to translate to the NFL. I don't like the idea of taking Jordan Davis this high. I don't think you'd take an interior lineman that high. I don't think you take a safety that high. So, yeah, if we're going Trayvon Walker, we don't like Kayvon Thibodeau, yeah, I think we trade back. I think we move to 6, 7, 8, 9, then grab a guy like Trayvon Walker because I think he'll still be there.
Yeah.
So, I can see the argument for Trayvon Walker. I just don't necessarily agree with it. Something I thought was extremely intriguing with this mock draft was who do you think was the first quarterback off the board and where do you think he was taken?
I'm still going to go Malik Willis as the first quarterback off the board. Where's Pittsburgh picking again?
Pittsburgh's first pick is at...
Wherever Pittsburgh's picking.
20.
So there.
Yeah, I think it's 20. So, you would be correct in half of what you said. Malik Willis does go at number 20 to Pittsburgh. He is not the first quarterback off the board.
Ooh.
In Todd McShay's mock draft, he's got Kenny Pickett, the quarterback from Pittsburgh, is the first quarterback off the board, going number 6 to the Panthers. There's been a lot of talk as of late about Kenny Pickett going moving up ahead of Malik Willis, and it's because he is looked at as the only NFL-ready quarterback in this draft because he's the only one that played a pro-style offense.
Mm-hmm.
The rest are looked at as serious projects, and that includes Malik Willis. And I agree with that. I still think Kenny Pickett's also a project, though.
Yeah, exactly.
But moving on now to the 32nd pick. Some other notables that were taken: Jermaine Johnson, 14, Jordan Davis, 19, which was shocking to me.
Okay.
Garrett Wilson, 4 to the Jets. Kyle Hamilton, 7 to the Giants. So the Giants ended up with Ikem Ekwonu and Kyle Hamilton in their draft. Drake London at 8 to the Falcons. Chris Olave at 11 to the Commanders. So a lot of the big-time receivers gone. Jameson Williams, 17 to the Chiefs. Jesus, pairing Jameson Williams with Pat Mahomes, that's dangerous. So a lot of the big wide receivers, Jahan Dotson, wide receiver Penn State, gone at 22 to the Packers. Treylon Burks, wide receiver Arkansas, gone at 23 to the Cardinals. So the big-time wide receivers are gone. Even Christian Watson, wide receiver North Dakota State, Tennessee Titans at 26. Not a lot of wide receiver options at the top, towards the top end for the Lions at 32. So that's why Todd McShay has the Lions going. Desmond Ridder, quarterback, Cincinnati, at 32. What's your thoughts?
Long said, if I'm taking a quarterback from this draft, it's Malik Willis. And if I'm taking a quarterback from this draft, it better be because Malik Willis fell to 32 somehow. I mean, in the first round of this draft. It better be because Malik Willis fell to 32. No, I don't like this. Not at all. Not even in the slightest. Let me ask
you this. Would you trade 32 and 34 to move up to 20 to get Malik Willis?
No, I would not.
Neither would I.
Give me darts to throw at the board.
By the way, another notable in the Kobe Dean, linebacker from Georgia, gone to the Patriots at 21, so he's not available. I agree with you. I don't want a quarterback in this draft. I don't even want Malik Willis. I don't.
I just said the only one I'm taking is if he falls to 32.
Like, I don't want Malik Willis. I don't want Kenny Pickett. Yeah, sure, why not?
Shoot, if you want to take him at 32, you might even if he's there at 32, he might just be there at 34.
Yeah, because I don't see the Jaguars taking Malik Willis at 33.
Exactly. So
he's not going to be there.
So you're telling me I spent a second round pick Malik Willis? Okay, sure. I'll do that.
See, the only thing that I would say is the Jaguars probably would look to trade that pick if Malik Willis is there at 33.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. See, my thought process is for taking a guy like Desmond Ridder at 32 doesn't make sense because how many teams are trading up to 33 to go get Desmond Ridder? Probably not a ton. So, like, you're waiting 2 more picks to fill a need by just taking Ridder there, and I don't think Ridder is going to be that good of a quarterback in the NFL. Like, I don't know if he's ever even going to see the field that much. Like, I've long said I don't want a quarterback at 32. I don't want a quarterback at 2. I don't want a quarterback in this draft. This quarterback class is not very good. I've compared it to the Christian Ponder class, and I don't want it. So I would rather, use our picks to go after guys that are going to help this team win in the future. And I don't think one of the quarterbacks is one of those guys. So we have a lot of holes to fill, and it goes beyond the quarterback position. So that's where I'm looking to go. Guys that would have been available: Kyler Gordon, cornerback from Washington; Arnold Ikabikaiti, I think his name is, defensive end from Penn State; Matt Corral; George Pickens, wide receiver, Georgia, was available. That's a guy I like a lot. Just saying. David Ajabo, granted he tore his Achilles. Those are really the biggest. Logan Hall, defensive end from Houston. Those are really the biggest names that would be still available. Quay Walker, inside linebacker from Georgia. But... And then, so moving on to 34, Todd McShay has the Lions taking Daxton Hill, the safety for Michigan. I like Dax Hill, I do.
Okay.
I don't necessarily want a safety with the first 3 picks in this draft, though. Like, I
was just happy you gave me a name that I knew.
Like, here's what I would have done.
Once again, in the second round, I'm like,
here's what I would have done for the Lions. I would have taken George Pickens at 32. I would have taken that wide receiver. We have a hole there still. We still need to fill some there.
I've been pretty vocal about wanting a wide receiver with either 32 or 34th pick.
And if I recall, George Pickens is a big wide receiver. Like, gives you a lot of size. Yeah, he's 6'3", runs a 4.47. 6'3", 195, runs a 4.47. Yes, please.
Sounds like Quintez Cephas.
Sure does. But he played at a really good football school in Georgia. Although, where'd Cephas play?
Cephas played at Wisconsin.
Was it Wisconsin? Yeah, he played at Wisconsin.
Okay.
Another good football school. Not Georgia, but still a good football school. I don't hate the Dax Hill pick, but like,
Cephas actually ran a slower 40 than I thought. He's also shorter than I thought.
How tall is he?
He's only 6 feet.
Really?
And he ran a 4.73.
Holy shit, that's slow. What? I thought he was faster than that. So no, that does not sound like Quintez Cephas.
It doesn't. I totally thought Quintez was like 6'3".
I thought he was too. I'm more surprised that that he's only 6 feet flat than that he ran I'm very surprised that he ran a 4.7. Jesus, like that's not very fast at all.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Jordan Davis.
I thought he was right around a
faster
4.5.
That's what I thought too. But if the Lions come out of the draft at 32 and 34 with Desmond Ridder and Daxton Hill, I'm probably pretty disappointed with the back end there.
Yeah, you took a QB and a safety when you have so many positions of need.
Right. And not saying QB's not a position of need and safety's not a position of need, but there are more higher value positions of need with players that can fill that need right away. Desmond Ridder doesn't fill your need at quarterback. You need a lot more. So I'd be pretty disappointed there, frankly.
Damn, Todd does not have the pulse on this time on the pulse of Lions fans, does he?
Apparently not. Come on, Todd McShay.
He took 3 picks that we as a show have shot down.
I don't love any of the picks. The only guy that I actually like, I like Daxton Hill. Don't get me wrong. I like him as a player. I don't want him in one of the top 3 rounds, and that's the only player or top 3 picks here, and that's the only way you're going to get him. And frankly, it just doesn't fit. Doesn't work for what we need. And I like Trayvon Walker. I just think at 2 that's too high. So
the answer to the opening of the show, can the fan report like a mock draft? The answer is still no.
Are we even fans of mock drafts? I know we like doing them.
I don't like them. Like, I like them as a avenue to discuss prospects and scenarios, but I don't like looking at a mock draft saying this is who I think will be available here. Like, you never know what's going to fall to you. But it's a fun way to discuss prospects.
Right. No, I agree with that. So, anything else to add before we close out?
No.
All right, that's going to call for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Follow us on Twitter at RealFanReport. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you to Andrew. Thank you for joining me. And thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast, as always. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Peace out.
Peace.